Hello, I am a workshop artist that does stuff for a lot of different video games on Steam. Mainly TF2. I do lots of stuff in TF2. I do hats, lots of unusual effects, war paints, but most importantly, I do maps. That's my main export. Lots and lots of maps. I have a credit on 26 official maps in the game, which would be the highest if it weren't for Void, which is the creator of Megaton.
26? Jesus, I didn't even know that. I did my research on you, but I didn't know it was that many. God damn.
It's a lot of random little stuff. Like someone who used like a tree model I used here and there, like some textures.
Interesting.
Maps that I've like actually done myself. I think I have 4 of those in the game. Yeah, Brew, Hacksaw, Halloween Hacksaw, and then Murky. Oh, I should mention I made a Zombie Infection that game mode last year.
Yes. I was going to bring that up actually.
Ah, perfect.
I have 6 questions that are generally about Megaton itself, and I have 4 questions based for you specifically. And the true creator of this map, you said their name was Void?
Yeah.
Hopefully I will also get to talk to them, and you'll know because you guys are watching the video, and I will just cut to them speaking as well. So, but as for me recording right now, we'll find out if I get the chance to speak to them. I'm sure they're a very lovely person. When did you first get involved?
Oh, that's a good question. So I wasn't involved with the map from the start. I had helped playtest it, but it was playtested in a few different servers. But I had already collaborated with Void before in 2018 on Monster Bash. And so just being friends after that, he's always in touch with me. And I only first started my work on the map when the emails for the maps being accepted went out. And if people don't know, when your map is being added to TF2, you'll get a personalized email from Valve asking if they can use your map. And then obviously you start a whole line of communication with them, sending over your files, and they report bugs to you, stuff like that. I only got part of the map after those went out. Void really wanted to have a big explosion at the end of Megaton, but didn't have time to fit it into the workshop upload. So when the emails went out and Eric Smith at Valve says, you have like 4 or 5 days to finish your map and send it to us to be included in the game, he was like, I can't do this myself. I need help. Any reasonable person would need help for that. And so he went to me because my experience on different accepted maps I had, especially Bonesaw, lots of fire effects and lots of particles in that one. So he's like, you seem like a good explosion guy. Let's get you in there to make an explosion for the map.
That's interesting to hear because that actually plays into my next 2 questions that I was going to ask. You kind of answered 3 questions there. So the next 2 questions I was going to ask was a nuclear bomb, was that always going to be the finale? And were you brought on just for the bomb or with like general map aesthetics?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, Void has this really cool sketch of the map where it almost looks one of one how it looks now. Just this real simple digital pencil drawing of the entire map. And from the start, the theme of the map was that it was going to be a nuclear test site on an island. So from the very beginning, it's always had that payload bomb dangling from the top of it. That's been a core theme since the start. Oh, there's one thing I did. I did a bit of VScript work for the humiliation sequence on the map is a little bit longer than normal. I think 5 seconds longer. I did a bit of VScript for that.
I saw a couple days ago they pushed an update on the blog for that increased the time so that you could properly see the bomb explosion and to make sure everyone got killed.
Yeah, that was So from the start, when the map was sent to Valve, it was meant to have everyone get fizzled and have the humiliation longer, but Void misspelled the VScript folder. So when the map got added, none of the scripts worked, but that got fixed pretty quick.
On the topic of the bomb explosion itself, I'm dying to know because I love the intricacies of map making. Is the bomb explosion an actual model that gets put onto the center of the map right there, or is this achieved with like skybox trickery? The same way the rocket launch in Canaveral is. Yeah,
so the model for the explosion is fully within the gameplay space. It's not a projection or skybox trick. The model is just big enough, the mushroom cloud. It is, after the first explosion, there's a big fade to white. And that fade to white hides the model being plopped right into the center of the map, with the cloud being just big enough to cover the test site tower in the center. The whole stalk of the mushroom cloud, so to say, covers it up perfectly, and it's just instantly plopped right in. And then it triggers an animation beginning that causes the cloud to grow up into the air. And yeah, there's not too much trickery. It's actually pretty straightforward.
Wow. That's actually pretty impressive to think. That's a clever workaround for spawning in the model itself.
Yeah, that was Void's idea. He gave me a very rough little concept that showed like make the explosion just big enough that you don't have to do a destruction sequence. You don't have to disable the whole middle tower because it'll make the lighting look bad and stuff like that. All this technical mumbo jumbo. Just make it so the cloud is big enough just to cover the tower, and that's exactly how it ends up working in game.
And on the topic of the bomb, you have given me some behind-the-scenes assets that I will be putting on screen either right now or before this, so the audience, you've already probably seen them, along with this custom kill icon that you made.
Yes.
For when everyone is killed by the bomb.
A small sneak peek. I think that'll end up being... He wants to send an update to Valve either tonight or like in the next few days. He's doing a big optimization pass on the map. Lots of new tech coming out from the likes of Fycool, doing stuff in Hammer. It lets you like merge props, make stuff render more efficiently.
Interesting.
He's trying to fix some frames up, and alongside that, it'll have the kill icon.
That's good to hear. It's always good to see map makers go and improve and optimize their map as tightly as they can, especially when it comes from fan feedback and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a hard one to optimize too. It's a very open map.
Well, yeah, it's pretty much like a sniper's wet dream, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so surprisingly, this is something I mentioned earlier in the video itself. Despite how open the map is, I feel like there's just enough cover so that snipers don't like completely dominate the map. And I think that's pretty smartly designed, given it takes advantage of the beach setting by having trees and rocks and little shacks and other buildings. And I think that's just a really smart way of creating not a fake sense of being open, but like it tricks you into thinking, oh great, this is just going to be full of snipers. But then you actually play it, and it's more balanced than it would appear on the surface.
Yeah, there's lots of intermittent cover that you can kind of weave around. It's not great for hiding behind, but when you're trying to dodge a sniper, it kind of makes it so they lose their tracking on you. Can't really tell what direction you're going when you're weaving between lots of stuff.
I have 2 questions here from friends of mine.
Yes.
This one is from my brother. His name is Greg, and he asks me...
Shout out, Greg.
Why did you guys let the engineers build underwater? That's actually something I asked you myself earlier.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, if Void was here, he'd probably answer it.
I don't know. I mean, Void would know best, but Void has a history of aggressive no builds on maps. Koth Slasher, a Halloween map from 2018.
Oh, he made Slasher.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's a really cool map he did.
Damn.
Lots of roofs on that map are no build, and he got a lot of complaints about those. So I imagine it's ever since then he's been pretty lax with the no builds.
I remember when that map came out, and my only complaint was that I couldn't build on the roof of the center control
the little
point.
roof set mid. Yep, exactly. Ever since then, he's been real lax on the no builds.
That wasn't even a deal breaker for me. I like Slasher, even if I think the capture point time is a little too long. But it's definitely one of my favorite Halloween maps. Not being able to build on the roof was never a deal breaker. It was more of a, oh, wow, whatever kind of feeling, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But kind of sucks to hear he took it that hard.
I can't explain like his psyche about it. Like I'm sure it's probably just he might have just not even just thought about putting it in the water. During playtesting, he playtested it on several different servers. No one was really abusing the water or anything too hard, so I imagine it was just not really seem like a big issue at the time.
That's the problem. That's where he went wrong. He playtested it with people that have experience playtesting maps, not a Joe Normie who just queued up for casual for the first time.
I actually completely agree. A lot of playtest servers, engineers are pretty weak on them. People know how to kill NG pretty well. As soon as the map goes official, NGs have a pretty great time on them.
I have another question here from my good friend. His name is Javi and Snipa. 2 names, but it's one guy. He asks, for you, what is the hardest part of making a map? And inversely, what is the easiest part of making a map?
So, the hardest part of making a map, I think, is probably... So, the tools, first of all. The tools. They're pretty good. In my opinion, but it's a very, very steep curve at the start. If you're a new mapper, the hardest part of making a map will absolutely be overcoming the tools. But if you're experienced like I am, the hardest part making a map is actually just having a good idea. Like just a nice, good, unique idea that try to approach. What theme can I do? What mishmash of different aesthetics can I pull off with this map? Or what goals can I do that hasn't already been done by Bad Water and Gorge? You know, that starts to become the hardest part. And inversely, the easiest part for me when I make a map is actually just iterating it based off feedback. You'd think it would be really hard. You have feedback pushing in all sorts of different directions and stuff like that. But after a while, you can really start to, when you watch people play, you really start to develop this sort of instinct where you can tell if something's a total miss or if it's good enough. And iteration starts to not really take that much when you're really experienced. The easiest thing for new people getting into mapping is probably, I wonder, if you're new, the easiest thing when you're mapping would have to be, I mean, it's pretty damn hard all around. When you're new, it's really hard. Like, all of it is really hard at the start.
I would imagine the hammer editor is pretty non-user friendly, pretty archaic.
Luckily, it's actually gotten really great over the years. The lighting previews and really so many quality of life changes actually brings it up to people can develop maps super fast now. Like, what would previously take me a whole year to develop a map, it'll only take me like 2 or 3 months to do one.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really good to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, I really recommend people, if they're interested in mapping, to try it out now. Like, the tools have never been better, and they're continuously getting better.
Yeah, on the topic of hammer editor, my problem is I'm one of those guys who likes to yap about how all maps are bad and they suck and they're not fun, and the people that make them, we should beat them to death with hammers. But that's just my fault for being late. Not you, though. You're fine.
You're good, dude. Don't worry about me.
As much as I like to talk about what I think makes a good map or what makes a fun map, I will say I've never had the patience to actually sit down and learn hammer editor. So for every one of you that actually does, I applaud you. You've got the patience, you've got the talent, and you've definitely got the drive to take your idea and push it forward and make it just kind of make it real. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And realistically, honestly, I'm not trying to ham it up, but I really think anyone can do it. Like the resources that exist out there now are so abundant. The TF2maps.net community is super strong. You have a great Discord. You can ask all sorts of questions from like any skill level of core experience, and get your maps play tested like so fast. They'll have a full server playing your map. They'll point out all your horrible flaws, but that's good when you're starting out, because once you iron those out, who knows? You might have a pretty good map at the end of it.
Yeah, if you submit your upcoming map to TF2maps.net, there will be a never-ending horde of people ready, willing, and able to playtest your map, because
yes.
I'm also a member of that Discord server, and it feels like every hour on the hour there's an @everyone ping to come and test a new map that I've never heard of before.
Almost every day there is a playtest on that server.
Like, just the other day I was playtesting some new medieval map, and there was a full lobby full of people. Everyone was talking in voice chat, typing what they thought over in text chat. It's a very welcoming community. They are very, very active.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the questions related directly to Megaton that you can answer, obviously.
Yeah.
Now I have some questions here that are directed to you.
Oh.
So my first question for you is, how long have you been playing TF2? And have you made any other content for other Valve games or just other games in general?
Yeah, my first time playing TF2 was right after it went free to play, which was in 2012. It was after Main Economy. I was 12 years old. I booted up the game. I was put on Double Cross, and the first item I got was the Man Melter, and I equipped it because I thought it was the best weapon because it looked like a sci-fi laser pistol. That was my experience with the game. That's when I first started.
And you just fell in love ever since?
Yes, absolutely. I started it from all the Gmod stuff that was on YouTube. That's how I really learned about the game. Ever since then, I've just been playing it, and I only started developing things for the game around, I want to say 2016, 2017. It's like I played it for a few years, and then I was like, I actually want to contribute to this. I was always really inspired by the stuff that people made for the game. The
first time I ever played TF2 was the Orange Box back in 2007 when I was 7 years old, playing it at my older cousin's house.
Yes.
And I didn't really care about Half-Life at the time because I was 7 and I was like, oh, this game's realistic, it's boring. I like the game with the cartoon guys and they blow up and shoot each other. So I played it then. I wasn't any good at it, but I didn't get my own computer to actually sit down and play it myself until 2013, so right before the Robotic Boogaloo update. That was my first update.
Yeah. I also had the Orange Box, but I was mainly playing Portal. on it. It basically was just the Portal game for me.
The Portal game.
I probably launched TF2 like once or twice or something, but
I was drawn to the game through Gmod animations too. I thought Versus Sex and Nail was like a real game mode because I saw so many people playing it and making videos.
I was helplessly addicted to that game mode when I first started playing TF2.
Me too. I was probably in I was in Freak Fortress servers probably 24/7.
Yeah, for sure. I also really liked arena mode. I did a lot of arena stuff.
I loved arena mode, man.
I was so unbelievably excited in 2021. I made that arena graveyard, that reskin of Lumberyard with the ghosts after you die. I made that one, and that was the first. Yeah, that was the first arena map to be added to the game for like 7 years, or like 6 years, since the last one was Invasion before that. So I was like, damn, I couldn't believe they added it.
I can't believe we still don't have an official arena mode game tab. Like,
I know.
The alternate game modes tab exists for a reason. I made a whole video about that shit.
Yeah, it would be cool if it was in there. By default, a little tidbit of trivia. Arena just doesn't work in casual mode by default because casual has the best of 3 system. It doesn't have team scrambles. It doesn't have spectate. So like Arena relies on balancing by 3 people in spectate and scrambling every few rounds and doing lots of small rounds. Casual just doesn't support any of that. And in order to overcome that on my graveyard map, I had to do the weird fake HUD with like the trophy on the bottom and like the round wins counting up on the bottom. I had to remake Arena completely with map logic. Like, the map technically is not Arena. I had to remake all the functions of it so it actually worked in casual mode. And I actually had to explain to Eric Smith himself how it even worked. He would send me bug reports and stuff and ask why things don't work the same as Arena, and I would have to explain, and he'd be like, oh, thank you for explaining, like, that sounds really complicated. And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's like really faked from the ground up. Arena Perks is a map I also helped on and does the same thing.
Oh, that's the one where everyone votes on
that
a little...
That was Halloween last year. Yeah, it's like the roguelike map, yeah.
They get like a power-up for the whole team.
That map was so cool. I'm so glad that one got like made and finished. I did the art pass for that map. That was all I did on it.
This is a little side tangent, but I believe UEK Crash is making a similar map like the one you made for Graveyard with the little ghost dispensers that heal you, but it's off blast, right? I feel like I think I remember watching him stream playtesting that map like last year, because I know it didn't get into Scream Fortress that year.
Yeah, he would have just been playing. I think I know the one you're talking about. It's it wasn't what was the funny name for it? It had some funny Halloween name, but it had like purple like goo tubes all around the map or whatever. Yeah, that was someone else using my graveyard logic for that map.
How honored would you be if John Valve emailed you and said, "We're very impressed with your fake arena mode logic that makes it work in casual mode. How would you like to come and help us develop it to be a permanent addition to casual mode?"
Like, my response right now is like, this year, now that VScript exists, that graveyard map is the most jank BS behind the scenes. It's so bad. I need to remake it with the VScript, because now with VScript you can make things work so clean and casual. Like with VScript modes as well, completely bypass the casual like best of 3 limit. You could really just create a completely authentic arena mode that works in casual using just VScript. So that would be a pretty cool opportunity. However, I do suck ass at programming. I get it done, but I suck ass.
What you just said about VScript, that actually plays in my next question I was about to ask you. You have made maps like Graveyard, and you've also helped make maps like Crasher. Would you, and I guess anyone else who's ever made a more experimental Halloween map or otherwise, would you ever go back and sort of remake or redo those maps with VScript in mind to make them, I guess, run better or function better, taking advantage of VScript's capabilities? Because I do like Crasher, but it's pretty buggy.
Yeah, Crasher was made the year right before they added VScript.
Yeah, that's such bad luck too. Crasher came out like 5 months before VScript was a thing.
While it's bad luck, I also see it as like a really cute sort of send off to like map logic, because that map, its goals are so incredibly ambitious, and people really enjoyed that map when it got added, and it tried something really, really new. And it did it all within the limits of map logic, which is so primitive, like so primitive. That like it's kind of a cool send off. That's like the last ever map logic thing to like ever be implemented to casual. I am really curious because I didn't program that map. I did lots of assets for it, and I helped also balance it as well. but the people behind it, they're both really great. I am curious if they'd want to do a VScript redo. I think that would actually be pretty cool if they tried to do that, because there's some polish potential. When things become less jank, there's a little more wiggle room for being able to polish it up a bit more visually as well. So I am really curious if they'd want to do that. But yeah, absolutely, I want a VScript graveyard so it runs better. It runs like dog. It is so bad. I would love to rewrite that one for sure.
I'm glad you say that, because I felt similarly
the
when
net graph on that
it initially
horrible.
came out.
Yeah.
And ever since I made that video talking about TF2 maps, I've always thought twice before I outright say a map is bad.
That map is love or hate, and even the people that love it lag the hell out.
I'm glad to hear you say it yourself. Next question is, you have designed war paints and cosmetics and obviously maps. You have a very storied workshop list. Out of all of those that you've done, war paints, cosmetics, maps, which of those are the most fun to work on?
Fun to make. So, okay, so all of them are really fun. I'd say war paints are the least fun because at the end of the day, it's just tiling pictures. You can't do much creatively. The ceiling's pretty low on them. Cosmetics, the ceiling's pretty in the middle. I have a lot of fun designing and making cosmetics. So they're the creative restrictions and the stuff that you can get around it. Really, really entertaining. It's cool to see what people enjoy. But yeah, maps for sure are like the ultimate bit of fun. And Zombie Infection was a blast to make. And don't get me wrong, extremely stressful in the time that it was created. But it was so fun to develop, and it was so cool to see the enthusiasm from players to other mappers wanting to jump in on the project. That was so fun to develop.
So the maps are for sure the most fun thing that you can make, because I imagine they're a lot less restrictive.
Yes, from the very jump, because it's just a whole new mode, you can just make whatever and see if it sticks. And that was a lot of that at the beginning. The very first thing I tried for Zombie Infection was Arena Ravine was like the first layout, but it was only ever tested with me and the programmer, just alone. But then other than that, the very first map that we used as like the test bed for like all the playtesters to try out and you like get interested in the mode and like test like the bare bones functions was Murky. There's this really old gray box version of Murky out there somewhere. That was yeah, it was a perfect little test bed. Just this big thing of water and a bunch of random houses scattered around. It was so basic, but it let people experiment a lot with the mode. Let us figure out a lot of problems really fast with it because it's so sandboxy. You aren't locked in as a player, so you're going to be experimenting a lot, and that gave us a lot of hints early on what to change for the game mode.
But I guess now that I'm talking to you like this, were the moves for the zombie classes, they were directly inspired by like the Special Infected and Left 4 Dead, right?
Yes, yeah, very directly inspired. They were actually the first thing I came up with for the game mode. I was legit sitting on the toilet and I was bored and I just started typing in my phone like, what would each class have as a zombie ability? That was the very first thing I dressed out for the mode. And almost all of them, as I designed it, are like that to this day. There's a few that are really different, but yeah, just
but
from
they
the
all
beginning,
start
the
with
idea
you,
just sort of ended up working.
One thing, continuing the side tangent for a bit, one thing I can say I didn't like about the Zombie Infection mode is after I picked up that they were based on the Special Infected from Left 4 Dead 2, I noticed they lack the one thing that really made you more aware that Special Infected were around. And I'm sure this would be hard as fuck to program, but
they don't have cues?
Yeah, they don't have a sound cue.
Man, that's actually a good idea.
So I remember playing the friggin' Asylum map and wondering, where are all the goddamn zombies? And then I would turn a corner and there would be 7 zombie heavies. I was like, whoa!
Yeah, that's actually
it's just pretty hard to keep track of them all.
I don't know how I haven't considered that sooner. Because people, like, I've tried to come up with middle grounds to, like, player outlines and, like, all sorts of stuff like that. More particles, more like the sniper charging the spit has sounds, the EMP has sounds, stuff like that. But I've never considered just having ambient sounds for just the zombies. So having like a looping noise for the heavy especially would actually be a pretty good idea. I should definitely consider that. Just so you can like hear him at least like a couple rooms away. You can at least hear him just growling. You'll know that he's around the corner.
Yeah, because for the most part, they're all pretty silent.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a good idea.
But on the topic of Zombie Infection, you and I actually met through talking about the zombie infection maps, and that made me think: how many maps have you worked on in total? Like, regardless from the smallest detail, how many of those maps do you think you've made?
Like all things that exist with like some smidgen of my work in them.
Yeah.
Oh man. I have a couple really popular prop packs that a lot of people use. There are like hundreds of alpha maps that will never see the light of day. There's tons and tons of stuff on the workshop that uses random bits of content. There's lots of maps that I've played and given feedback to. I really have no idea how to summarize it, but with little bits of asset, I never really thought about it, to be honest. I guess it's like actually like hundreds of maps out there have like at least something I did on them.
Now, I know that we never would have met if I didn't take such an interest in the zombie infection maps, so this leads into another question of mine. You were in Mappers versus Machines, that contest back in 2017.
Oh, yeah.
And if I recall, your map, I think it was called Helix. I don't think it won. You've come a long way since those days. How long do you think you've come, really, in terms of improvement? And how many, like how we met through Zombie Infection, how many connections do you think you've made through your endeavors? Like, how many people have you met through the shared love of mapping, and how much do you think you've improved?
My entire friend group I speak to now is all people I met in the TF2 workshop sphere. There's these incredibly funny and kind and skilled people that the list just keeps growing, and the connections are some of my favorite parts. I love collaborating. I love getting to know these people. People that like I idolized when I was like 14 on the workshop are now like I just talk to them like every day in voice chat, and it's really cool how that ends up working. It's sick. Like I've improved every year since I've started. I'm trying really hard not to stagnate now because like there's a limit that you can hit in TF2, but people keep pushing it. People really keep making some insane stuff like in this game. But yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing to improve, making really cool stuff for everybody, meeting new people, helping them, giving feedback, stuff like that. It's had a monumental influence on my life. I mean, it's my job, it's my whole career at this point. It's my social life, it's my income, it's everything. It's really amazing that that's even possible.
Well, it's just amazing to hear. I think that's what every aspiring map maker wants to hear, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this recent summer update, so many new mappers getting maps in. It is so cool. Like, it's kind of crazy.
In this collection of maps that we've gotten, if I can echo what I said in the actual summer video that I did, I'd say that in terms of map quality, this is the most consistently good batch of maps we've gotten in a long time. Like, there are no major stinkers, like, at all. And yeah, I think the only agree. Like Hadal, however you say it, I'd argue that's the only stinker among the bunch. And even then, that map's major fault can just be patched. Like, that can just be fixed. So I'd argue there's no losers here.
No, yeah.
This is all just really, really good, and I'm having a ton of fun playing them.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm really happy with the stuff that they picked. It is just a good, diverse chunk of game modes, really high quality stuff. Going back, I love how they've been going back previous years and adding like fan favorites. Basically, it's really cool. Completely blew my mind that they added medieval. I couldn't believe that one. That was crazy.
Yeah, getting our second ever medieval map.
Yeah. That map was high rated on the workshop for years, like 9 years. It was on the workshop.
Damn, really?
Yeah, it was like one of the highest rated all-timers. Because it was like the workshop first opened in 2015, and not nearly as many people back then knew how to map as now. And Burghausen was already a map that people enjoyed on community servers, so it was uploaded to the workshop instantly, gained 1 million voters because Valve shouted out the workshop, etc. So it's been up there really high for super long, so it's crazy to see it finally added.
That's nuts, because the only map that I knew, shows how ignorant I am, was I knew that Overgrown has been in the game for years. I play tested that map for years.
Yeah, I remember playtesting it back in 2017.
Yeah, UEK Crash was he was super overdue getting that damn map in the game.
Yeah, it saw a ton of improvements since it missed out in Jungle Inferno. After it missed that update, he patched it quite a lot, and I'm really happy to see the version in game how it is. It's really cool.
That's another talking point I wanted to bring up. I'm kind of upset Valve kind of jumped the gun with Jungle Inferno being their big jungle-themed update. I feel like a lot of the maps added here, and I know a lot of them were taken from the Tropic Crisis community update.
Yeah.
A lot of them really could have fit in Jungle Inferno.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
I would swap out Brazil for Overgrown or Embargo like any day.
yeah, absolutely. And obviously, of course, like none of those maps really existed back then. And Overgrown back in 2017 looked and played so different than it does now. But like the quality of stuff that gets made nowadays is crazy. Like it blows old updates out of the water for sure.
I think the only reason these holiday-sized updates like don't get the like quote-unquote respect that they deserve is just because they don't have they're not given any fanfare when they're added into the game.
Yeah, there's no big blog post. There's no there's no taunt previews on YouTube. Like the even like the littlest things that really made it feel like a grand thing. But Valve found a formula that works for them. Like it's just it's an easy thing that they can do. I wish that they could put more flair. I think it's missing a lot of flair. Like the second they do that, I think people would be like, "Oh, this is like a major update."
Absolutely.
Objectively, they're absolutely major updates. No different from ones in like summer 2013.
Yeah, we're getting more content in these holiday-sized updates than we ever got in major updates. I'm pretty sure I made a whole video talking about that specific talking point.
Yeah.
If these holiday-sized updates were given even like a slice of the presentation that official Valve updates got, people would treat them way more kinder.
Yeah, you can
something as little as a blog post would be enough to gain interest in these maps.
Give it some name, give it a blog with a couple pictures of maps, get some SFMs of the taunts, and then like add some dog shit like stat flip minigun, and it's like, oh, we're back.
Exactly.
All the same stuff, just a little bit prettier. And it's like, oh my god, major updates are back.
I've got 2 more written down questions. Out of all the maps that you've worked on, all the ones that recently got into the game, even your older ones, Hacksaw, Crasher, Pyre, Powder House, etc., all the maps that you've made that are in the game, which one is your favorite?
Ooh, I really like CP Brew. I'm really proud of that one. I really like Brew. That one was
I like Brew a lot too.
That was like I don't know what came over me. I was like, I want to make a map for summer. That announcement came out. Valve's like, we need maps for summer. I'm like, I want to make a map for summer, and I want it to be orange, and I want it to be involved with beer because I like beer. And so I found a friend to work on it with. We did a crazy little map. We split up the gameplay and the detailing. I did most of the gameplay areas. Email is his name, or Emil. I can't believe I don't know how it's pronounced. I've been friends with him for a while now. Anyway, he designed the spawn rooms for both teams and the B capture point area, and I did all of A and everything between blue spawn and A. Oh, and from A to B as well. All the interior brewery and all the outdoor stuff, that was all me. My god, it was so fun to make. It was so cool to experiment and play with color. It was so fun to create like a concise, like warm color palette. And then you transition into B point, and it's like this cold palette with all these metal walls. Mwah! I loved it. It was so fun to make.
I'm really glad you guys fixed that truck.
Yes. Oh, dude, I'm actually so tilted. I fixed that truck. So the missing texture was fixed in the summer update. I submitted this fix for the texture, and then the summer update says, we fixed the missing texture on Brew. When do you think I actually submitted the fix before Valve put it in the game?
I'm going to say a whole year ago.
Yeah, basically almost. Like I sent it off in like February after like the map like had the bug like after like a month or something. I finally sent over a fix, and it took like months and months and months for them to finally add it in the summer update. I was like, dude, what is taking so long? But it's finally fixed.
Brew was up there when I reviewed the maps last year. Brew was definitely one of my favorites. And God, I love hearing you talk about like your passions for making the map and how it works in your brain, like experimenting with color palettes, interior design. Like I love hearing that shit. That's like just so.
I love to share it.
It's like watching an artist describe a painting they made.
Yeah, that's very flattering.
It's nice to hear you talk about your creation that way, in a way that someone like me, who has no experience making a map, can't.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people do when they discuss or when they critique maps.
Yeah, hearing people talk about the stuff the way that I do is what inspired me to really get into it and start making things like years ago. Like I just heard people be like, wow, there's actually like someone made a decision along every step of the way when you see someone when you play a map or play a video game or like just observe any sort of art, you're like, every single bit of this had a decision behind it. And it's so interesting to be like, how does someone get that instinct? How does someone approach this problem-solving issue, you know? I loved hearing people talk about that, and it makes it so fun to listen to that and try to use that to develop your own skills. And you accelerate so fast when you start paying attention to just the littlest details. It really, you can make a really nice big picture in not too much time. I urge some people to try out just art in general. It's so creative. Just the problem solving involved is just so cool. And it's always really nice to hear when people notice the stuff that you make as well. Like you, it's so cool to be able to talk about that stuff.
I understand. That's how I feel when people. I know it's a different thing, but like when people point out like a joke or a sight gag I do in editing, that makes me laugh because it shows that people are paying attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Different than pointing out like a carefully placed.
I don't think it's all too different. At the end of the day, I'm just having fun making my stuff like you are. So it's like a lot of art is just, you know, it's a lot of stuff like that.
It's the little details that matter most to the person making it.
Yeah.
I got one more question that I just came up with before I get to the final written down one. And this is something I've actually wanted to ask, not just you specifically, but I guess every map maker. And I'm sure lots of other people have thought this too. Do you guys make maps with the intention of them being officially added, or just for the joy of making a map?
So it's definitely a mix of both. There's definitely some things I make just for fun, just to see things that people do. But there are definitely things where I'm like, this is my career and like my only source of income, so I'm gonna bust my ass and make something addable in like a short amount of time and like get people to like it. It really, like, because you can do both. Like you can be creative and have fun and still be able to do it for the money. For people starting out, I would definitely recommend just do it for fun at first. Don't let this idea of bag chasing completely fuck your passion for something. You know, it is a really toxic mindset to get in at first. And how I started was I definitely just started for fun. I was making medieval maps. I was making arena maps. I was making complete random stuff. I was making things for April Fools, like little April Fools events. That was how I started. Lots of April Fools maps. So there's lots of people, like everyone I know pretty much that does this stuff for work. A lot of them also just do it just for fun. You know, they'll submit some other thing that has no intention of being added. But yeah, I can't speak for everyone. For me personally, at this point, I do a lot of it for the source of income. But so far, it hasn't really, I wouldn't say it hasn't plagued me or like made me hit a ceiling or something or like have to do a bunch of compromises. I'm still able to make it my career while still experimenting and trying creative things like the zombie game mode or just doing some crazy payload race map where you hack a computer with a saw blade, like just random ass ideas. And the workshop really encourages people to try new things in order to get seen and added, because Valve rewards that quite a lot. They really like to see people do new ideas. It's what they add the most. They really like new ideas. So yeah, it's a mix of both. For new people, I recommend do it for fun. You can turn it to money if you're good and like really committed to wanting to go that path. But yeah, definitely start doing it for fun. If you start it with money, you'll never have fun doing it. But if you start doing it for fun, you'll always have fun, even if you're making money. So that's my advice.
I'd say that's a pretty enlightening perspective. Thank you for that. Because I'm sure there's lots of people who will immediately jump to, oh, these guys just made a piece of shit map so they get paid. I'm sure there's lots of people that would jump straight to that conclusion. My final question that I have written down for you is, with all the maps that you've worked on that have gotten into the game, how do you personally respond to people who will just kind of be toxic towards you and your map and your creation? I guess in short words, how do you respond to the haters?
The haters. Yeah,
because I'm sure there are plenty of haters that will immediately jump straight to, oh, this map's a piece of shit, after playing it once and having that first, like whether or not they played it, had a losing team and they immediately had a sour opinion of it and never went back. How do you deal with the naysayers and the haters?
It's like a couple years back in 2021 when that winter crate got added. That was like the hell spawn for like the haters. And a lot of people, completely respectable opinions, plenty of agreeable people with genuine good criticism and feedback. So many of them, right? But they are not the loud ones. The loud ones are the minority of people that really, really try to come up with reasons to dislike things, just have their own prerogative or agenda or what have you. And it was really bad a couple of years back, it became impossible to ignore. Like, mostly with haters, you just block them or delete the comment or whatever, and you just go about your day and touch grass. Back then, it was so bad because you had people smearing you, making videos about you and your friends. Just so insane. But nowadays, you can absolutely just tune it off. Now I'm just, if someone's genuinely toxic, like they don't, I'll engage with any honest criticism. But people that like things don't really comment on things. People that hate things comment the most. And it can be really demotivating if you don't keep that in mind. Because it'll look like from the outside that you're getting tons of flack and tons of hate on something. Because I make maps and hats and all this stuff. I've seen the whole circus. I made things for Counter-Strike and for Rust. None of them are nearly as toxic as TF2's workshop for some reason. The comments specifically. But you just, once you keep in mind, like, it's just a loud minority. Most people like things. I mean, your submissions have ratings on them. If their ratings are good, you know that people like it. So nowadays, yeah, I just ignore them. It's so easy to just block, ignore. Thank God for that, but yeah, that's basically all you can really do. You can't change minds of people that have their mind already made up. They go into it wanting to be angry. They didn't get angry by seeing your submission or map or hat or whatever. They're already angry. They're just venting it, and you're just a random person that they're doing it to. So you have to keep in mind that it's super impersonal, and they're just a random loser, and you just delete it and block it. That's basically it.
Expertly said, I'd say, especially that last bit about how they go in with a hateful mindset.
Yeah.
They go in with the purpose of hating, not to change their opinion, not to get a different outlook. I'm an asshole, and I want to be a hater. And here's someone that I can hate.
Yeah. Valve doesn't respond to me, but these people sure do.
Right? And I'd say you're pretty spot on with people who like things won't really comment versus people who do dislike something will comment. And the video I made defending workshop creators, which got me in the sightlines of a certain man. I'm sure you're
well
aware.
Familiar. I've talked with a guy before. He is unsalvageable.
Main point I had with the map video and the workshop video was when people see something they like, they'll most likely just go, oh yeah, that's pretty cool, and then they'll vote up and then they'll leave. Versus someone who doesn't like it will be like, this is the biggest piece of shit I have ever seen. This guy deserves to die.
It's pretty much exactly like that.
It's interesting to hear that same opinion from an actual creator.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get like, it's so weird because it's really specific to TF2. I make things for other games.
Yeah, I don't know
the comments
why.
are all positive. It's interesting because it's like the total inverse. Everyone's just silent. Your submissions will get like 70, like your items will be getting like a C+ in the ratings department, but the comments are all positive. But in TF2, I have hats with 92% positive ratings, which is like unheard of. Like, that's extremely positive in the TF2 workshop. But like all the comments are like, Medic can only have white colored hats, which is like the most bizarre. Like, I can't even go into it. Like, the people, there's no explaining it. It is so bizarre. So like, if to like any new people that like want to get into the scene, just please ignore these people. Just make what you want. Base your items around the ratings that you get, the actual tangible ratings. There's a way to play towards the ratings. You know, you can have items rated good and bad. There is a general, pretty reasonable take from most people on what they want in the game. Just ignore the insane people, please. It's so bad, it's so discouraging, but they're a very small group of people.
Especially since that same group of people, their complaints will be so narrow-minded. Like, they'll see a 10 out of 10, but they'll make up one flaw about it and immediately tank it. Like,
it's like a lot of food critics, right?
Yeah, I know our mutual friend, he made a lot of bad comments about the new maps that were added, strictly because some of them weren't in a desert.
That's fascinating.
Like, that was the only complaint he could possibly think of. And personally, I think if you have to make up complaints about a solid list of maps, they're pretty freaking well made.
It's a pretty good compliment, all things considered.
Like, that's the worst you can come up with.
That's pretty flattering.
So I'd say take that in stride.
I mean, out of all the launch maps, Granary is a farm, 2-4 is a farm, Dust Bowl's a desert, Well is a train yard. Like, it's not even pretty industrialized. It's nothing to do with anything remote like that. Hydra was a dam. Like, yeah, it's a desert, but it's like, it's full of water and like come on.
those complaints really fall apart when you stop viewing them in a vacuum and kind of scope out your lens and look at all of the maps that are in the game.
Hypocrisy,
I'd
though,
argue there's probably less desert maps.
Yeah, at this point, yeah. Hypocrisy is always the point with people like that. It's really easy to make an argument when it doesn't have to be consistent. It allows you a great deal of flexibility, to say the least.
Well, with all that being said, I'm completely out of questions, either in my brain or on my written notepad here. Is there any final thing you would like to say? Anything at all?
I think it's amazing people still play TF2. Kind of blows my mind. I'm glad Valve is finally fixing the bots. I don't know what took them so long. It seems like they just fixed them completely randomly. Hope they keep it up. Lots of nice people in the game. I met tons of really great people from it. Love making art for it. It's going to be a staple of my life for a very, very long time. It's really cool to see it pick up with new people and get new players, new artists, new people just interested in this lifeblood of the game. I'd love to see it just keep that momentum going. Even if it fizzles out, like they stop updating it or whatever, it'll still have so many loyal people playing it. It's really cool. It's a really great game. I'm happy to share it with so many really creative and like just really interesting people.
I gotta say, it's really nice hearing the way you and other creators have such a warm opinion of the game and the people who play it, and then you listen to people who are just like assholes all the time, talking about how like only a certain group of people can enjoy the game.
Yeah, for sure. Turns out the people that care the most are the people that want to put things into it.
I think the biggest critics of this game are probably the people who care the most. They're just not rude about it.
Like, I am critical of TF2. I will give critical feedback to people. Not mean, but like I will, you know, we all want to make each other's stuff as good as possible, yeah. But there's absolutely a certain toxicity on it. And a lot of, not to ramble on about it again, but a lot of armchair people, I don't think it's always a great excuse to be like, if you want to make something good, then make something yourself. But I will say that it's a great training exercise to put yourself in someone's shoes. Like actually going through the whole process of something and seeing reaction and collaborating, stuff like that, it can be really eye-opening. I don't think you have to be an artist to critique art. But I think trying to approach it from that sort of empathetic attitude will immediately influence your perspective on the whole thing and really make you just change your whole perspective on it.
I'd say map makers, workshop creators, people who make anything for TF2, I'd say they deserve their criticism just as much as they deserve their flowers. And a lot of people think it's one or the other. But I think
you can absolutely do both. Yeah,
you can do both. You can absolutely have both. I'd say both are necessary.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree.
Well, with that, I guess we're all out of time. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and of course, I'd like to thank the illustrious Diva Dan for agreeing to talk to me.
That's me. Thank you, everybody. I guess I'll put my workshop items. I don't know, is that vote manipulation? It doesn't matter. Valve doesn't care about ratings anyway. It doesn't matter. Don't worry.
Well, goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching.
Bye-bye, everybody.